All right, let's get started. Thank you guys for coming. The Meridian Arts Commission's mission is to develop, advance, and nurture all facets of the arts to enhance the quality of life for Meridian residents and its visitors. Today is November 13th, 2025. It's 3:35. Let's do, Lizzie Taylor. Here. Bridget King. Great. Sean Muscolo.
Here.
Bird, I'm here. Crystal Paulson, she's not here. Patrick O'Leary, he's not here. Bobby Gatan.
I'm here.
I see you. Sayun Song, she's not here today. Jay Smith is not here today. Let's move on to the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda for today? Oh, your microphone isn't turned on, Lizzie.
Madam Chair, I move to approve to adopt the agenda. I am sorry. Adopt the agenda. So moved.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Lizzie Taylor moves and Sean Muscola seconds. Sorry, we haven't had a meeting in a couple months, so we're all rusty. All right, so we're gonna move on to the approval.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, everyone has to vote.
Emily, what'd you say?
Oh, sorry, you need to vote on the motion.
Thank you. We can't hear you very well. Wonder what's.
Hmm.
Yes, all in favor of adopting the agenda. Sorry.
Aye.
Okay. All ayes. Oh, any opposed? Thank you. Okay. The agenda has been adopted. Thank you, Emily. Sorry. All right. So we'll move on. We have two sets of minutes to approve. The minutes from our meeting on August 14th and the minutes from our special workshop on October 9th. I've been told we can do this in one motion. Is that true?
Yes, that's correct.
Great. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from August 14th and October 9th?
So moved.
Sean Muscolo moves. Do we have a second?
I second.
Bridget King seconds. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those minutes are approved. Thank you, guys. All right, our first order of business is reports. So we'll start with a presentation. I don't know if Meredith is on. Is she? Okay, we'll start with a presentation from Meredith McKinley, who is our amazing partner from VIA, who's helping us with our public art plan. And we're gonna, let her give us a something. Sorry, my brain is dead today.
It's, I don't know, a report,
Meredith,
an update,
recap, a report, an
some
overview.
stuff. Hi, everybody. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can't hear
Okay,
you very
okay.
well. So we
Okay. Yeah, there's something with the Zoom. I could hear Emily just fine.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I think
it
it's
might be
something
the
to do with it.
the audio in there.
Yeah, Cassandra's looking into something.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll
Sorry about the technical.
I'll speak loud and clear. Hopefully that'll work.
Can you kind of hear her? No.
Are you guys able to see her on the screen?
Yeah, we can see her. Do you see her?
The screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Lizzie, press presentation with your finger.
Testing.
All right, we've got our technician coming to help us out.
Uh-oh. Brought in the experts.
Yes.
Let's take a brief intermission, IT intermission. Oh, try talking now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, well, that was easy. Great.
Okay,
thank
fix.
you.
Okay.
Sorry, Meredith. You
It's
may
okay. Hi,
continue.
everybody. It's nice
Hi.
to see you. You're tiny on my screen, but I'm glad to be here. I'm going to share my screen. All right, you got it?
Well, there we go. Yes.
Okay. So what I'd like to do today is, I know that Cassandra shared some reports with you, but I'd like to just go over the results from our engagement process. So that's our questionnaire, the tabling, activities, and then also to just give a recap from the Imagine Art Here workshop, and what some of the key takeaways were from that workshop. And then we also thought it would be helpful to share with you the sort of the draft of the plan outline as it exists right now. So a lot of these slides have a lot of information on them. So I will also make sure that you have a clean copy of this that you can share with everybody on the commission. So I'll start with the engagement. So our online questionnaire, we had just over 200 responses, which was fantastic. It gave us a lot of great information and feedback. And then you also had the pop-up engagements, the one that I was able to attend at the Fine Arts Festival, which was over 2 days. I know some of you were involved with some of these others, the Senior Center, the concerts on Broadway, and Touchmark. I don't have exact numbers on the number of people that were engaged, but it was pretty significant. So one of the questions that we asked was, and we shared not every single work in your collection because there's so many, but we shared some of the principal works in the collection and asked people what they recognized. And so this was sort of the top responses. So you can see these all had above 50% recognition, and then these other pieces had between 35 and 50%. And then you'll see the stars here are actually from the tabling results. We had the same images, but the question was framed a little bit differently on those tabling exercises. We just asked people to put a star next to their favorite piece, not the ones they recognized, but the ones that they were their favorites. And so that's why we see the bus shelter down here. It didn't make it into the top 35%, but it was listed as a favorite, which is interesting. So the people who knew it, or even if they were introduced to it at one of the tabling events, listed it as one of their favorite pieces. And then we also asked for folks to share with us their pieces. The way that the question was framed was pieces that they from these other communities that they felt sort of fit the spirit of the kinds of works they'd like to see in Meridian. And again, so these were all, there weren't any that were above 50%, but of course they could pick up to 4. So people were picking several pieces. But these are the ones that were between 30 and 50%. And then again, the stars are the favorite work. So interestingly, this piece didn't make it in the top 30, but when people saw an image of it at those tabling events, it got lots and lots of stars. So we asked about the impact of public art in the questionnaire. And so this is sorted by response. So you can see some of these top responses: creating memorable and recognizable landmarks, supporting and enhancing the identity of Meridian, creating opportunities to experience art, really the top 3. And then right below that, focal points for gathering and development of local artists. So you'll start to see these themes coming up over and over again around landmarks and identity in particular. Top locations for art. So far and away, number 1 was parks. And again, people could pick up to, I think, 3 or 4 of these. So almost everybody picked parks. Downtown was next, followed by bicycle and pedestrian pathways and libraries, sort of tying. And then we get into sort of, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and the rest. The tabling was more specific. Remember, if you remember, we had a map and people could just put a dot on the map. And so counting up those dots, you can see again, parks were the main location where people were focused on, followed by downtown. And then some of these represent different pathways and gateways into the city. So then sort of drilling down a little bit in that question of where, we asked about the types of places. And again, and this is going to be a theme that's sort of recurring, are artist design functional elements. So benches, bike racks, crosswalks, manhole covers, interactive and playful works, murals, and then again, this sort of interest and focus on local and regional artists. And then really not far behind that, artwork that's large scale and iconic. This was sort of, we had some open-ended questions in the questionnaire too. And these are always great ways to sort of, to get it, some ideas that, you know, art is easy for us to sort of come up with a sort of list of potential answers. So what is the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Meridian? And we categorized the answers. They didn't have these to choose from, but these was sort of, if we looked at all of the responses, all of the 201 responses, these are sort of where they were coming in. So again, this idea of family focus, community values, local heritage, but also people talking about growth and change. And then of course you've got parks and open spaces, as being sort of in this top cluster of things that come to mind when you think of Meridian. And I just put some of the actual quotes that we had in here of things that people were saying. So again, these quotes are sort of, you know, sort of good representations of the kinds of responses we were getting, you know, Meridian struggling to find its identity, openness, natural setting, local wildlife, seasonal change, parks. I love this. These parks are a dream come true for our family. The Meridian Parade. So looking at that sort of heritage and history, and then, you know, fast growing community, fun downtown with personality, fabulous open spaces, and park and community events. You could put that on a brochure. What do people love about Meridian? Parks, 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 parks. Safe and clean, small town feel, family focused. You know, again, we're really, you know, people are consistent in their responses. What places do you take people to show them what Meridian's all about? Parks, downtown, the village, city hall, galleries, library, restaurants, and local businesses. So these are the places where people feel a strong connection. But look at that number on parks. That's huge. So the imaginary here really sort of built on that, I would say. Here you guys are. We had a great turnout. We did our vision cloud exercise, so I think most of you all were there. So we were, this question asked, you know, what's one word that you'd want to use to describe Meridian's public art in the future? So this interactive and engaging, you know, those are those theme words that keep coming up over and over again. I'm not going to go through all of these, but we'll share these with you. You have the longer version, but I boiled it down a little bit more. But we had some really great ideas at each of the tables. And since we didn't get a chance to report back out at the end of the workshop, I just want to acknowledge some of these. You know, the community facilities team really focused in on some of the key core places that are important sort of centers of the community, the library, the community center. The water tower got a lot of mention in lots of different teams. I don't think it was the same folks over and over again because it shows up in multiple places. The senior center. So thinking about the community facilities as an anchor for public art. A lot of interest in downtown. This came up in some of the other conversations too. Arches, as gateways into downtown Meridian and some suggestions on where those might be good places. Functional art, alleyways, temporary rotating pieces. Looking at different scales. So, right, those things that are sort of at the scale of the pedestrian, the alley, but also things that are like big and, like a piece like the water tower, but downtown, something that's like very iconic. Parks. We had 2 teams with parks. I sort of blended those results. Park identifier, accessible, interactive, so that idea of interactive again. That a lot of different parks were discussed as part of that, as part of those groups. I think the takeaway from that is like, yes, please, and more. Some specific ideas, love to see some of those Thomas Dambo trolls, even some gateway ideas that are sort of connected to parks came through in that conversation. And then our streets and corridors team also was really busy coming up with good ideas for gateways, roundabouts. That group in particular sort of clarified that those middle mile roads and collectors might be better places for roundabouts than sort of the major thoroughfares. Transit shelters. There's an interesting opportunity along Linder Road from Pine to Ustick for a linear park, which the public art program should probably be keeping its eyes on. But other ways to sort of slow traffic, improve pedestrian safety, and also just serve as that welcome to Meridian. And then our breakout 2, it looks there was some great brainstorming on each of these 2. The youth and family life, talked a lot about interactive again, event-based types of things, works of art that can be community builders in there twice, nature and ecology, so many different aspects of Meridian that could be explored by artists to talk about aspects of Meridian's sort of nature and ecology. This is such a great list. And the types of places, so corridors, waterways, pathways, parks, waste treatment, the landfill learning center, and the impact that those kinds of projects can have. The community building group talked a lot about engagement as well. I love this idea of a mapping theme that would come out of this sort of initial point heritage, working with children, working with schools, getting artists more engaged. Design and beautification, we've got our roundabouts and archways in here. Again, our functional art is part of this sort of, as well as looking at landscape and creative placemaking. And then finally, our history and heritage group gets 2 columns because they talked about so much, but it had a lot of ideas for locations, the types of art, and again, all these sort of different ideas that could be explored by artists to tell the story of Meridian. So, some takeaways. One is that there's, first of all, congratulations to you all. I mean, it seems like there is a pretty high awareness of public art and an appreciation for the public art and all of the efforts that you've done so far. So those responses really talk about, that the work is accessible. It's in locations that people are seeing the work. And it's, that there's the strong awareness. That people are interested in public art as a tool for placemaking and identity. So that idea of identity comes up over and over again to help Meridian develop its own distinct personality and character. Some people sort of talked about it in terms of differentiating Meridian from Boise, but even just creating those you are here moments, gateway moments, gateways into downtown and things that are iconic and have that sort of placemaking sort of recognizable sort of icon like that. You're in Meridian when you see the water tower, you're in Meridian when you see this work of art. This desire again for work that's interactive, functional, and family friendly. So those would be like the three big themes, or maybe like the three stools on the ladder, like interactive work. So not just something that you look at, but that engages you. Functional work, which you already have some great examples in your collection of work that has this sort of, form and function, whether it's artist design benches or if it's using art to embellish something like a transit shelter, and then family friendly. So that sort of family centered aspect of Meridian's community, and really thinking about how that translates into the artwork that you're creating and the places that you're creating art. Parks and everyday spaces. So again, those preferred locations are very park focused. And then preference for locally relevant and inclusive art. So in addition to an interest in working with local and regional artists, that art should reflect Meridian as a community, that it should tell stories about Meridian, and be meaningful to people who are here. Sort of relevant to that idea of balancing tradition with growth. So, I think there was definitely a notion at the Imagine Art Here workshop that, to go ahead and kind of lean into the agricultural history of Meridian, that it's not something that Meridian should shy away from, but that there's also, that doesn't have to be everything, and that art, the art can also be talking about Meridian's present and future. Drawing attention to the natural environment, again, some really great ideas, and that, relates to parks and trails and the kinds of public spaces that people are also interested in seeing art. So that was it. So those are the takeaways. I'm going to pause, stop sharing for a second. Before we go into the outline for the plan, I want to see if there are any questions or other comments or things that people observed in sort of reviewing the material.
No?
I have a quick question. When you said we had 201 people take the survey, do you know how many partial ones were done?
So, so the software that I use, if it labels it as partial, that basically means that the person didn't get through like the first, they only answered maybe one question. So if they only answered one question, we didn't count them. And usually what that means is that they started the survey and then their phone rang, or, their kid needed something and they closed it and then they opened it back up again and restarted it. So of those 201, all of those were people who answered at least, I would say at least 3 questions in the survey, but maybe didn't get all the way to the end. So if they answered the first page essentially of questions, we counted their answers.
Okay, I had some feedback from people on the open-ended questions. They were like, I didn't know what to write for that. So I wondered if all their answers
No,
counted.
they all
Okay.
got, yeah, if they just skipped those open-ended questions, they were still counted.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any observations or questions for at this point? Okay. Okay.
That's good. Thank you for that feedback, though. That's good feedback, because maybe for me in the future, knowing that it might be good to let people know that those are optional questions, or that they're, that to let them know that if they don't have an answer, that's okay. So thank you.
Madam
Still
Chair.
take what they do want to say.
Yeah, Bobby, what do you got?
Hi, Meredith. This is Bobby. I
Hi.
have an observation. So some of the comments that were referred to were off. Some of them were like, let's try to stay local and regional. Somebody, I think, and in order for that to happen, I feel like there needs to be more opportunities, obviously, but even just opportunities to, and we've talked about this throughout the year, like ways to engage young artists to give them opportunities. And so I don't know, somewhere in there we can kind of connect those two things where if we do want local and regional,
Right.
well, how can we nurture and grow and and just offer more opportunities to that group there. And it's more of just an observation, I guess. So
No, I think that's great. And I think when we get into I just pulled this back up because you're right, you can kind of see this artwork by local and regional artists being high, where this artwork by nationally or internationally recognized artists maybe didn't rank so high. But as we get into the outline of the plan, that might be a good thing to flag is we want to make sure that comes through in the plan recommendations.
sweet, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, should we get to that? We can go to that.
Madam Chair, one quick observation, I guess. The sometimes with our program, I think we have so many pieces in parks, and I've thought before, is that the right option? I think it's kind of landed that way partly because my position is in parks and that it's easier to implement. But so I felt really encouraged that by some of the results, like people really like them in parks, and that was kind of the top option. So that feels like, okay, we're doing that well.
And I think I really do think there are a lot of pieces in the parks already, but it's so accessible to the public and it feels very it belongs to everybody. And we could put more pieces downtown. I think that's also a good priority, but I do think people Meridian is pretty big and most people live in the suburbs and that's where they go and where they see the work. And so I think that, yeah, I like that observation as well. And I like that people like having the work in their parks. Yeah. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, thanks, Meredith. You can keep going.
Thank you.
on.
Okay. 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 So can you see this? It's kind of is it too small to read?
No, that works, I think, for
Okay.
everybody.
All right. You can see I struggled to get it all on one page. So we've got two columns here. I'll just walk through each step. We haven't started writing yet, but this is sort of the first step in drafting. So we always do an executive summary. I think that's always helpful because not everybody's going to want to read the whole plan. And it might even be something that you could just sort of pull out and Xerox and share with people in lieu of giving them the entire plan. And I always write that last after everything else. So that'll probably be the last thing that you see. We'll do an introduction, that will give us a little bit of history of the program. We'll talk about your collection. We'll talk about how your funding mechanism works and the role of the commission. We'll do a little methodology where we'll just talk about the planning process and all the engagement, and we'll do a summary of the findings that, so will be a variation of what I just shared with you. We'll then start with mission, vision, goals, and strategies. And I left this sort of key in here. I do it for myself in part because I used to always get confused between what's the difference between a mission and a vision. So the mission will describe what you do. So what does the public art program do? And then the vision, what is the impact of public art in Meridian? The goals will expand upon that vision. So the vision might be very short, it might be one sentence, but the goals then allow you to sort of give that a little bit more texture. And then the strategies are really sort of summarize what are you doing to achieve that vision specifically. So the what we do might be we commission art, we care for our collection, and we engage people in in learning about our public art in Meridian. But then the vision talks about the future, the goals talk about the future, and the strategies talk about specifically how you would do that. Opportunities then. So this is where we'll have sort of two chapters. One will just define project types, and that will include things like permanent, temporary. We'll probably give a definition to murals, functional art. When we talk about functional art, what does that mean? So we will sort of give basically just sort of, it's a little bit of like a glossary in a way, but it gives sort of some common definition to some of the terms that we'll be using when we talk about the opportunities. And the opportunities will be an inventory of the not every idea that you could possibly generate. We'll put some of those ideas in the appendix, but really sort of looking out over the horizon, what are going to be some of the priority opportunities for Meridian and public art, knowing that things will change and that you'll still have to go through process every year to develop your work plan. So that actually gets you to the next section. So what is the process that the Arts Commission and staff go through to develop a work plan? And then we also have been talking with the planning department and the parks department about how public art recommendations can also live in the area plans, park plans, and comprehensive plan for the city. So in the case of the comprehensive plan, that might just be making sure that the comprehensive plan references your public art master plan. For the parks plan, that might also be the same, and it might just be really important so that as individual parks get planned, again, that decisions about public art aren't being made through a parks planning process without it being informed by this master plan as well as by engagement with the Arts Commission. And same with area plans. So we'll work with the planning department to sort of figure out how to best sort of articulate that in this document. We've also been talking with staff about public art and private development, and we won't include a developer guide in here, but there'll be a recommendation that the city develop a developer guide, or an FAQ for working with developers, so that developers have a sense of how to work with an artist, how to find an artist, what are some best practices in working with artists. But there's already a process for developers working with the city of Meridian to include public art as an amenity, and I think that's for it's for mixed use development, or it's multifamily mixed use development. So we're going to work with the planning department to update that to make it more specific, so that the definition of public art is more clear, and how those projects get approved as public art is a little bit more deliberate. There'll be a section on roles and responsibilities for everybody that touches the public art process. We'll have outline your artist selection process, which you've already started to draft. And so really it's just about taking those ideas and laying them out and getting them in the document. We'll have a section that talks about funding and staffing. And then collection management. So those are all of the things that you all do to take care of the collection, which the bigger your collection gets, the bigger the burden that is. You already have a deaccession policy, so we'll reference that policy, but we'll make sure that all of this is documented. We'll do a section, and I don't mean this to be sort of last but not least, but on awareness and engagement. And so that'll really talk about also the importance of getting the word out about public art and engaging people in your public art collection. And then we have these various appendices to reference in the plan itself. So I know that's a lot and there's not a lot of detail on this yet, but I would just want to make sure, like, to the earlier comment about like, where does it talk about, where are we talking about, for example, artist development? Does that need to be something that we call out? I think right now the feedback for us is there anything that's in here that's missing that you want to make sure gets addressed as we're starting to work on the draft?
Does anybody have any? I think if something comes up, I can think probably better outside of this meeting, but does anybody
Yeah,
have any?
I understand that, right? It's a
Yeah.
lot. And so again, I
Yeah.
think what we'll do um is we will I'll share this presentation with Cassandra to share with you all. And then if you have other thoughts or feedback or questions as we're moving through the process, but I kind of just wanted to give you the opportunity uh to do that, to ask questions or to add or change where we are at this point to make sure that this plan is addressing what you need it to address.
No, that sounds great. Yeah. I don't have anything popping up for me right now. Does anybody else?
And Madam Chair and Commissioners, I want to thank Meredith for all the work she's done on this. We've been working in pretty tight collaboration through email and every other week check-ins. And so we actually sat down while she was still in town and worked on that draft together. So I feel really confident in this and good about this. So I hope you do too.
Oh, I mean, so far it's great. And the experience of like just working on it and gathering that information and that feedback has been really amazing and really interesting, I think. So thank you so much for all the hard work you both
Well,
have done.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I mean, it was a great workshop. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I was really impressed with um how enthusiastic people were and how seriously they took their assignments and what great ideas came out of it. So it was a real joy to sort of be a part of that. So thank you. Okay,
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, that was
thanks.
amazing. Thanks, Meredith.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, you too. All right. That was awesome. And thank you guys on the commission too for all the volunteer hours and everything that I know we've all put in work on that. So it's going to be really cool to have a master plan. Great. So moving on, we'll let Cassandra give us a update on public art.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, just a few updates. All the traffic boxes have been installed. If you follow us on social media, you've probably seen some of those popping up. I'm putting an image of each one that's been installed and a little narrative by the youth artists out there. So that concludes the 2025 program, and soon enough we'll be starting on 2026. The Safe Passages public art piece for the Linder Road median, that the fabrication has started for that. They've got the parts cut and the wings rolled. It hasn't been welded yet, but Stephanie Inman plans to paint the piece in the spring and likely will deliver it to the city in the spring. The city agreed to store it for the artist, which is kind of great at our park shop because the road is, it's probably another year out from next spring, year to year and a half before actually being installed. So that's where we're at with that project. And the community center public art. I'd like to, we talked about this a little bit before, develop a subcommittee, so up to 4 commissioners for that. I don't quite have all my ducks in line yet for that, but watch for next month. I think if I remember, Commissioner King and Commissioner Smith expressed particular interest, but if you're interested, let me know so I can look at schedules. And what I anticipate that looking like is probably 3 or 4 one-hour meetings, like every 2 months to get through kind of a selection and planning process for the community center. And it'll be based on that plan that feels like forever ago now, but it was attached to a commission meeting a few months ago. Any questions?
Yeah, does anybody have any interest in, anybody else have any interest in that subcommittee? Just so we can gauge.
Like to, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think so.
So I would like to, if
Okay,
it's-
Crystal.
if it works schedule wise.
Okay, that's good. We don't need anything firm right now, just if you're interested in.
How many are you guys trying to get? I'm interested in the community center.
Mhm.
I'm interested as well.
Yeah, so it looks like we could get, it's 4.
Yes, we can only
For
have
a
up to 4
subcommittee, yeah.
because more than that becomes the full
Yeah.
commission. So
So it looks like you have enough.
Yeah. if you
People.
Need someone, I'm there.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Bobby. Thanks, Crystal. Okay, awesome. Yeah, anything else, Cassandra, on that? Okay. All right. I just want to briefly discuss a topic. We this year purchased one of the first artworks for the city that we have in about 10 years, right?
for 2D, yes.
For 2D, yes, for the city collection of 2D works, which is those 3 pieces by Claire Remsburg that were a traffic box. And yeah, it came up this last week. And me and Cassandra had just briefly said we maybe should discuss sort of priority of collecting 2D works for the city and maybe allocating what you guys would think of allocating MAPS funds every year for that purpose, and maybe how much would be an appropriate budget for the collection of 2D works.
Did we spend, if I may ask, how much did we spend on those 3 pieces? Do you have any rough idea?
I don't know that off the top of my head. If you give me a minute, I can look that up.
I think we should do that.
Yeah.
Do we have, it looks to me like we have space too, but
Oh yeah, I think so.
Well, and especially with the new community center opening up, and I don't know what other things are opening up, but I think there, the pool house, there are some different buildings that are available too.
Is that something that can be like, can we put 2D work in other public buildings, or is that like a whole other thing?
Madam.
Potentially, yes.
Okay. Potentially, yes. So good point, Crystal. Yeah.
Madam Chair, are you are you proposing there's a lot of artwork in this building. So are you trying to like differentiate which ones belong to MAPS versus which ones belong to maybe other, I don't know who bought that bus or who that bus belongs to,
So that bust is from the police department. It's like a whole thing. But and we didn't purchase that. But like a lot of these,
that wouldn't be part of our collection per se, right?
no, I don't think so, right?
So to give some reference, the collection, there's maybe about 20 pieces, and they're like the watercolor Dwight Williams piece that's out here. On the second floor, there's a couple in the hallways. And then on the third floor, there's like the sailboat that's up there. So there's about 20 pieces in different locations in City Hall that are part of the essentially the public art collection. It's a little bit different, and maybe we develop that as a program and call it something different. Boise, I know, calls it their portable works collection as part of their public art collection. But as our Commissioner Byrd said, we haven't, other than the Claire Remsburg pieces, we haven't really purchased any pieces for, I think, almost 10 years. And that was a little bit of a different thing But it did come up during the Initial Point Gallery show. There's the cow upstairs, and so many people really love that. And it was just kind of casually brought up, like, what if we purchased that for the collection? And right now, we don't really have any like plans in place or a budget, or like, would we want to purchase like 1 to 2 pieces a year, or like what? So I think it would be nice to sort of set some expectations or parameters around that so that things don't get suggested like, let's purchase a $30,000 something, so maybe if we do some planning for future pieces.
Like that.
Another thing that's coming up that might be potentially a good purchase opportunity is the Bosco show for the America 250 exhibit. That could be a purchase award, and something, so things like that. There's things that occasionally come up that might make sense to collect. So probably no decisions today because we didn't like make a policy or anything, but wanted to, get an idea or like what amount of money sort of makes sense from and it's about $75,000 a year that are part of the MAPS fund. So is it like a percentage or a small amount of that allocated towards purchasing work for the 2D collection? Would that make sense? Is that something the commission would want to see? I feel like I talked a lot, sorry.
No, I like
So
the
that's
idea
great.
of the,
That's better context. Thank you.
of the criteria. I do like that idea of creating some sort of criteria.
Yeah. And I think in the future we could develop, and me and Cassandra have talked about this, a collections policy.
Policy.
And I think that would be good, of what we think is important for the city or relevant for the city to be collecting as
Yeah.
artwork. I think generally, like for me, I think it's a good goal just in that it would be supporting local artists. And maybe we can decide later as a commission, like what type of work would be appropriate to collect. But I think it's a positive thing to collect work from local artists and allocate funds for that purpose.
So to clarify, those funds, they're not, you use them or you lose them. They can build up, right? So like if you had something that was a little outside of your budget, but you saved up for like 2 years, could you do something like that with those kind of funds?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Paulson. So yeah, the MAPS funds is one of the only city budgets that does carry forward. And that is how we can do some bigger projects like out at Discovery Park. There was much more than like 1 year's budget. So that would potentially be an option, yes. And to answer Commissioner Muscolo's earlier question, the Clay Rumsberg pieces for all 3 was 5,000.
Yeah, and as a ballpark, yeah, we had just, some people have brought up that cow upstairs, and I think it's priced at 4,000. So like, yeah, just as an idea, like, would that be too much, do you think?
Well, I mean, that's including the frames though, right? That we paid for.
So we also paid for the frames separately. I can't remember how much that was. I think that was maybe 1,200-ish for all 3 of those.
On
So
top of the-
that's a really good point. So that did bring up the total cost of those to more like a little over 6,000. And I will note, we initially agreed to purchase, and upon negotiation of contract, the city does ask for a lot of asks for some copyrights, and we did some negotiation. So we did end up paying a little bit more than the initial asking price for the copyrights.
Of the Remsburg pieces?
Yeah, Commissioner Taylor, do you have something to add?
Yeah. Madam Chair and Commissioners, maybe, and this is a small and imperfectly formed thought, maybe in our call to artists, we might for Initial Point Gallery, we might mention that a piece of art that was exhibited at Initial Point Gallery during a certain specific period of time would be possibly considered for purchase by the city. So in other words, we have like 9 exhibits per year, and maybe the commission or people who go to Initial Point Gallery could vote for their favorite, and if we all agree on it, because those tend to be not as expensive. Not that they're not as good, but there could be little like unknown artists and to have the potential of their art being selected by some methodology or other, who knows, to possibly be in the City Hall collection, I think would be a good thing. And incidentally, the cow, which everybody loves, is unframed and 4,000 buckos.
Okay. Anybody have anything else they want to?
Yes,
on. Oh,
I
sorry.
do.
Go
I
ahead.
have one comment, which is that I think it's possible that we should specifically say where we're looking to put that piece, or, come up with a set of those determinations before we make a determination as to what we're going to buy as part of the policy. That's a suggestion I have.
And Commissioner Muscolo, I believe we have to do that.
We have to do that.
So that's like, yeah, so with Claire's pieces, we had to, in order, because Cassandra presented the idea of purchasing those to the council, the city council, and she had to have like options for placement, and we had to decide where we were putting it before, or like as part of that whole purchase.
We can't really end up with artwork that we can't hang for public viewing.
Right.
Okay. That's a good thing.
Mhm.
Okay. We can't have a library in the basement, or aside from one cat with a crown on his head. We can't really have a library in the basement of public art. So.
All right. Well, thank you guys for discussing. And yeah, we'll bring this up again, but it was good to have opinions, and yeah. Anybody else have anything to add on top of it? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Lizzie, want to give us a update on initial point? And then I think Cassandra will have something to add to it at the end.
When does Lizzie not want to talk about Initial Point Gallery? The current exhibit is called Rock, Paper, Scissors, Wood, and it is a fabulous, fabulous exhibit. It hangs together cohesively, subject matter-wise, texture-wise. It is really very, very downtown, or uptown if you prefer. Reckon, who hosted it? How many people did we have approximately at the opening?
It was about 35.
Which is a little bit light, but
Yeah.
you get what you get. Okay. The upcoming exhibit, which is called Purple Plus, which is Treasure Valley Artists Alliance, which does a color-themed show for us every year, is opening on Tuesday, December 2nd, and I see that I am hosting it, which is a good thing to know. Okay, if you haven't seen the current exhibit, go see it, and please plan to come to the one and support Treasure Valley Artists Alliance. The subject of hosting comes up all the time. 2026 gallery schedule and commissioner hosting is kind of set. A few slots have been filled, other ones remain unfilled, but the one in particular that I would like to see a really great turnout of commissioners is for the Bosco show, which is Pursuit of Happiness. And I'm not saying wear red, white, and blue or drape flags or anything like that, but Bosco always puts on a razzle-dazzle show. Chief Razzle Dazzler right here. So when Cassandra, again, maybe around the first of the year or whatever, sends out the sign up, be there. The Bosco thing in particular is particularly important. I'm going to host the Boise Camera Club one because I'm the one that invited the Boise Camera Club to go see Initial Point Gallery in the first place. So I get to do that one. Anyway, Initial Point continues to be number one priority for the Meridian Arts Commission, and I support and appreciate everybody's involvement. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Lizzie. Cassandra, do you want to add something?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, along with the upcoming show, there was one thing that I wanted to bring up that was a little out of the norm. I was advised by the Treasure Valley Artists Alliance that there is one piece that was submitted that is AI generated or AI assisted, and we don't currently have a policy to address this. So what I'll be doing is asking the organization to make sure that there's full transparency and protection of intellectual copyright. And in a future meeting, I think this is a policy that we need to address as a group and figure out how we want to address AI artwork, because it's here and it's now being submitted to Initial Point Gallery. So
Okay, yeah, perfect. And we'll have a future good discussion on that. All right. Oh yeah, Cassandra, do you want to give us a recap on Arts Week?
is it me again? Okay. I did pass out some memos, and they're also attached to the agenda, just kind of a recap of Art Week. So we had several classes for Art Week, and one thing that I noticed this year and last year is there's been a lot of push to get people into the classes, and we're not having a lot of signups, and we're having to cancel some of the classes and registrations. So I am, other than the Angry Easel always fills out, she has all of the stuff on her page, and I think it's a little cheaper than she normally has. So her class is always totally full. But the classes have been really light. So I don't know if that's something we want to continue to focus on in the future or sort of redirect. The other thing where I feel like participation's been kind of low, and it used to be the biggest part of Art Week, is the art drop. There were not as many pieces, and it used to be the most popular thing. So I wondered maybe if shifting a little bit from the classes towards more focus on the art drop, is that kind of like being the central activity, might be something to do in the future. Attendance for the watercolor demo, that was really great. Maybe Commissioner Muscolo, do you want to say a couple words about the watercolor demo that you were there for and hosted?
Yeah, we had 4 artists show up for, is that true?
I think-
Yes, 4 artists show up for that, and it was extremely informal. They just talked whenever somebody asked a question or wandered around and came to their area and looked. One of them was very shy of public speaking, but got over it after a few minutes. And it was really fun. It was only an hour and a half altogether. So I think that actually was the right amount of time. If it were longer, we might not have had 4 guys take it, you know. But they're all kind of, they don't take themselves too seriously, as you gents are tend to do anyway. And it was really fun. I think they all had a good time. None of them complained about it. Andy was not there. It would have been hard for him to do a demo anyway. And Hugh Mossman was not there, so he was out of town that day. But yeah, good attendance, I think, too. I think we had about 60 people show up. Is that right? Maybe a few.
I
Pretty
know the
close, 40
paper
or
says
50 people.
24, but I remember there being more
Attendees?
than that.
Yeah, it
So I
seemed
don't,
like more.
but I don't know.
Maybe it wasn't as many as I thought. So.
I thought it was a lot, but the people that came, I felt were also very engaged and were really interested in talking and learning from the artists. So that was really cool.
I hope we have a chance to do that kind of thing in the future. At least, stand there and talk next to your paintings, or actually paint in the cases of, if we want to do that. I hope we could do that in the future with other shows.
Yeah, that event felt great.
So can I add something? I think that, and maybe this isn't the time to mention it, that maybe like for the classes, if we did do classes, partnering with people that like the library where people already gather for stuff, that we might have a higher attendance. Cause my library classes, I always have a waiting list. They book out really full. And then there's like, my cap is like 12 or 14 and I had like 19 in my last month's class. So just something to think about is maybe partnering where people already tend to gather.
So you felt like the location where your class was for this was less attended because of the location?
Yes, because like I teach at the pool house, I taught that at the pool house, and I feel like the amount of people that actually see Parks and Rec stuff is much less than it used to be, partly because they only do everything online. And in the past, before COVID, they would actually give pamphlets out to schools and other cities like Nampa that still do that. They get a higher attendance rate. And so I think that's made a huge difference as far as like attendance in specific classes. And like you said, Cassandra, that the Angry Easel, she has her own advertising. So ones that have their own advertising in that way and push it tend to be bigger, where right now the Parks and Rec stuff isn't as visual because it's kind of been more narrowed down.
Yeah, so maybe better outreach. I don't know. Maybe we could have somebody that works on, a committee that works on outreach more. I don't know. Maybe that would be helpful. It's hard to do with one person or half a person, you know.
Well, this
Well-
is the collaboration, right, between us and the parks.
Art Week is not really something the Parks Department touches.
or or the city though,
Um,
events.
so I didn't talk about the art party. So the art party is definitely a collaboration. Renee and we work on that. So the rest of Art Week is definitely, that's all, was Sarah and me. Everything that you saw was, we put together.
Okay.
Marketing is always an ongoing, like, where do you put things? Where do you, the Parks and Rec email that goes out to 20,000 something people, which is huge. So, it gets listed in there. And it's in the activity guide, which, as Crystal said, is not really printed, and I'm not sure how much. There's tons of people that use the system, and so they see it if they are already using it. It's sometimes in the newsletter from the city that also goes out. It's on social media. The posters for the art party is a bigger marketing effort, but marketing is tough. How do you reach people where they are? One of the things that I did for Art Week 2 was I looked on the library's page, and anything that sort of seemed arts related, we just advertised it. It's not ours, but we just put it in the schedule of things that were out there. So maybe that's something we could focus on, just helping market other things that are already happening out there. Oh, and the concerts that we're at. I forget the wine place that's down there, just kind of helping amplify and advertise what they're already doing. So we can continue that conversation, maybe not today,
Well,
but
and-
let's think about how can we make Art Week better, or look at it and what could we get the most? Because I feel like the classes they're definitely a lift, putting all that together and advertising them. And if we're not getting registrations, then maybe there's a different area, like the art drop, that is kind of dwindled but used to be really popular. Maybe more focus on that. That was just my thought.
Yeah, I mean, that seems reasonable to me too, but I'm wondering if maybe we could move some of those classes to someplace in the Kleinert on Saturday. If you show up right at 10 o'clock or whatever, you can be in a class for 1 hour that you learn.
That's great. Yeah.
I mean, some little shifts like that could matter to a family, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and maybe not at this meeting, but like you said, focusing more towards the art drop, and maybe we talked about getting school participation or groups, pushing that idea maybe a little bit once we form a committee.
Or do it in Kleinert Park.
in Kleinert
I mean, there's 800 people there anyway,
So the
Bring-
community
bring
art
art and
party,
drop
I felt my goal was just to replicate the year before. And if we just did that, I was going to be really happy. So we definitely did that, plus some. There were more people. There were still not as many people as I think we'd like to see. But it was still felt like a really successful event. There were a lot of people there. The interactions that a lot of the feedback that I got from vendors was that they really, like a lot of new signups on their newsletter, felt like they had meaningful interactions with people. So that was really good. There were some things that we added, like umbrellas in front of the band shell, sort of help make the band shell activate sort of that space. The chalk cube for the kids, I think, was a really good addition. The community just felt really good. And a couple of the performances and having that signature performance, a lot of people came down for that performance. So that felt good. In the memo, there's a lot of suggestions that I we're considering for next year. Probably the biggest change that we're looking at for next year is a shift in the event time to be from 12 to 8 p.m., which is longer and goes into the evening, and also adding some beer and wine to the event that brings in tons of people. However you feel about it, it brings in people. And maybe like more of a headlining concert at the end, and shifting the date because the date has been really difficult. It's hard because there's Art in the Park the one weekend, and then there's the Hyde Park Street Festival, and there's Pride, and then we can't use the park because it's like Potato Days the next weekend. So we're looking at the last Saturday in September, September 26th. So you should put that on your calendar. It's a little bit later in September, but weather should be good. And then we're just not competing with so many other events. Although the chamber has mentioned moving their Oktoberfest to that weekend, we hope they don't.
How can they have Oktoberfest in September? That does
don't
not sound
know.
okay.
They haven't landed on a date yet, but so we're communicating. I think we already have the park reserved, and we're pretty set on September 26th. So I hope they'll move, but to be determined. And also with moving it, I wondered if Art Week should maybe Art Week should be separated from the Art Party event, because I do think the Art Party event gets the bulk of the marketing and the focus and everything. And so maybe Art Week doesn't get as much. So maybe keeping Art Week with the National Arts and Education Week, which this next year would be September 7th through 12th, and then having the Art Party not exactly as part of Art Week. That's some of the details that haven't been figured out, but would love initial feedback if you had some on those.
Yeah, and then you can offer, classes and so forth or whatever really flies during Art Week. But you could also have some of that stuff going on in the art party during assigned hours. Let's say, you show up at 10 o'clock or you show up at noon or whatever, and you can learn to knit at one of them and you can sing songs at another one. I mean, the feedback I heard from what is their called, Capital City, is that this is their new go-to event for getting new members. No joke. Okay. They love it. They would absolutely want to do it next year. So
Yeah, and in the past, hasn't Art Week been separate from the art party? Because it just used to be the community art party, right? And then it became,
So it's always been during Art Week
Oh,
in the
okay.
community art party form, although there was a time where actually that event was the community block party, but it had like a whole no art focus. It was a whole different event. And then
I think that's
our,
what I
our
was
events
thinking.
coordinator wanted to do something different. So she wanted to tie it into Art Week. So that's why it became like an art focused event.
Mhm. No, I
Still evolving.
mean, I think it's something to consider, and it might break up some of the like big scary work of the year for you. If, if those were a little bit separated. And I do think sometimes like when there are a lot of events all together, people pick the most exciting one. Like people have busy lives and they don't have a lot of time to allocate to a lot of things. Like I know as like I have a pretty flexible schedule as an artist, but during like the first week of the month when there's first Tuesday, first Thursday, first Friday, like sometimes I get overwhelmed or I can only pick one, or you know what I mean? So I do think that's something to consider. It's not a bad idea. So yeah, anybody else have any feedback for? Yeah.
Like that idea.
I do too.
Okay. Something to consider for sure.
Great feedback. Thank you. Moving into concerts on Broadway recap, had a successful season. We had Soul Patch with 160 people. Rockabye had the most people. That one was a really fun vibe with their costumes and everything. That had 300 people. Billy Blues Band had 190 people. So concerts on Broadway next year. Looking forward, I've been talking with the Morrison Center about kind of what they do, how we could partner. They have their neighborhood concert series that they do in Boise, and I was at one of those and just asked if they were interested in bringing that to Meridian. And it looks like they're interested in bringing one concert next year to Bear Creek. So while we try that out, I think we might not do 3 concerts for concerts on Broadway while I'm trying to kind of get some of that going. And also just the main funding source for concerts on Broadway has been the Meridian Development Corporation. And they are sunsetting the district that includes, so that Meridian Development Corporation is still around, but they have like different districts. And the main one that's been really long is sunsetting next year. So they did agree for funding for next year, but after that, there's not funding for the concerts on Broadway, at least at that level. So I'm kind of thinking about how these could shift a little bit. Also, the Kleiner Park Live concerts, they've been seeing attendance of like 600 to 1,200 people. They're very similar events. At one point, we accidentally booked the same band within a week of each other this last year. That's kind of, so in some respects, I feel like we're competing against ourselves, and have been thinking a lot about like, what's the purpose of these concerts? Who are they serving? I'd like to see something still happening downtown. I think from city leadership, they would like that, but maybe those will look a little different next year. So heads up.
Perfect. Thank you, Cassandra. I think we've done well, and mostly you this year on those things. All right. Okay, yeah. I'll let Crystal, she's gonna give us a little open up a little discussion about the holiday activities for us.
Oh, ho, ho. So we have some more wonderful opportunities coming up. December 4th and 5th, we have the ornament drop. And once again, I know you all want to be there and participate. December 4th, we are making ornaments. It will be at the pool house. If you've never been there, it is just down the street. And it's from noon until 2. And what we like to do is, it's not complicated. If you don't consider yourself like an ornament kind of artist, that's okay. You don't have to be. It's all right. What we do is we just make as many ornaments as we can in the time period we have. And then, since that's the same day as the beginning of the ornament drop, we are going, especially if you're available, going to scatter them around downtown and kind of just add to the festivities. It'll be fantastic. So that is on December 4th from 12 to 2 at the pool house. And then once again, we too can change a child's life at the Children's Wonderland Festival. So we have the opportunity to be there from 9 to 3. We're doing the same project we did last year because it was so fun and creative. And we're getting, if you were there last year, we're getting more white markers. So they were very in demand. We only had 2 of them. Now we're going to have like 8 of them, and it'll be all good. So if you're interested in either of those, please let us know. I don't want to be the only one there, but it was fun. It was interactive. It was great to see people. And yeah. 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 So it was nice to interact with the public. Yep.
All right. Thank you so much, Crystal.
Is there anyone who knows they're available that day that can commit? So Crystal knows she isn't going to be by herself. The Children's Wonderland Festival, which is Saturday, December 13th.
If we're available for a shift of it, does that, I mean, I can't do the whole time. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Okay. Seems like
At least I think I did. That came from somebody else, though.
I sent a volunteer list of lots of activities that are happening through Parks and Rec, and I had a few people sign up for a couple of those, not Arts Commission, but like city volunteer opportunities. And I did send a calendar invite for the ornament drop.
Is it at home court again?
Yes, good
Same-
question. Yes.
Is that, so the ornament decorating is probably at the pool, like normal? Okay. And then the festivals at home court. Okay. Great. Yeah, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions about the Christmas activities? Okay. Um, our next meeting will be December 11th. I just want to give everybody a heads up that I will be gone for most of December, so I won't be at the next meeting. I just want to give a heads up that elections for chair and vice chair for 2026 will be in January. So just kind of start thinking about if you have a nomination for either of those. And as vice chair, Bridget will automatically be nominated for chair. Just an FYI. And yeah, Bridget will probably lead the next meeting. So thank you. Appreciate you. But yeah, if there's nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Crystal moves. Do I have a second? Okay.
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Muscolo seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Hey.
Aye. Okay. Any opposed? Okay.